Well, J-Mac, there are certain things in sports that I get weird over. Yeah. Years ago, people used to think I was a weirdo 20 years ago because I love the draft so much, but now everybody's come around on that. The schedule release is another one of those that I do think it does matter, especially most teams in this league are playing on the margins. They're not Baltimore or Philadelphia where they've got better personnel and star quarterbacks and they're winning by 10 to 12 points. A lot of teams, Tua playing up north in December is a disadvantage for the Dolphins. You have to look at that, right?
Huge, yeah. And I got to thank the NFL for giving my Jets a 1-0 start to the season. We get the Steelers at home to open and Mason Rudolph, not Aaron Rodgers.
Well, let's start with this. So my one takeaway, the NFL schedule, and it's a fairly obvious one, Kansas City, that is rough. So Kansas City does not have a great O-line, and they're going to try to figure it out. And they're using a backup at left tackle that hasn't really started and been the man from the Niners. And it's a hard unit to create cohesion. And if you look at their first 10 games, even the teams that we view as weaker teams, like the Giants, good pass rush. Jacksonville, pass rush. Raiders, Max Crosby. So even the W's could create problems for them. Forget Denver that led the NFL in sacks. You face them. Conversely, the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh, look at his career in year 2, everywhere he goes. Chargers, revamped run game, high-end left and right tackles, have a cookie dough soft schedule in the middle of the season to gain momentum. So my prediction that the Chargers win this division with a weaker schedule really plays in the middle of the season. You're starting to get dinged up. You're not playing with full rosters. It is really soft for the Chargers. We've watched the Chiefs and Mahomes get blown out in 2 Super Bowls. It's always been the same reason. O-line's not right. Well, I think they're going into a season where the O-line's not right. Add another thing. Kansas City opens in Brazil. They have the most 7 primetime games. That's what the NFL does once you're the star attraction. They have the Lions on a short week. Oh, that's not good. They have the Buffalo Bills on a short week. Yeah, that's not good either. Remember that Brazil game last year? Philadelphia went to Brazil and beat Green Bay. The Eagles came back groggy, and the next week lost to the Atlanta Falcons. So that'll take some air out of the sails. Here's what we know. Andy Reid and Mahomes are as good as anybody in the world at what they do. But again, this team played on the margins last year. Okay? And I think with this O-line, the kryptonite to Kansas City in their 2 Super Bowl blowout losses has been the O-line. This going into a season, they lost Joe Thuney, is their weakest O-line. A little bit of finger crossing here. Last year's was okay going into the season, a bit of a mess at the end of the season. So this is not a team like Baltimore, Detroit, Philadelphia, with stacked rosters that are not playing on the margins. They're getting 7 or 8 blowout games a year. When margins shrink, everything counts. This team had the 3rd lowest point differential in the AFC West. So in their own division, Denver and the Chargers had more blowout wins. And I think Denver and the Chargers will be noticeably better. Bo Nix now into a 2nd year with Peyton. They had some interesting draft picks at running back and wide receiver. So the downside to becoming America's team is that the NFL, this is what they do. And I can remember after the Giants would win a Super Bowl and Coughlin and Eli, and they'd put them on Sunday night and they'd flex them in, and everybody loved it, except the Giants and the older players. So here is Travis Kelce on his podcast, New Heights, talking about that opener in Brazil.
I'll be there. Not to do a podcast. Yeah, I'll be there playing
pretty
football
busy. Yeah.
In the heat. If it's humid, I'm going to be miserable. I'm going to
prepare to be miserable.
You're
surrounded by the Amazon rainforest.
This is a good point. If it's hot and humid and kind of what I'm expecting, I'm going to be miserable, but we're going to find a way to get a win.
Hip, hip, hooray. So my number one take, Kansas City going into a season with an offensive line I don't love. I mean, when you start looking last year at the teams at the end of the season that are really formidable and leaning on people, a lot of them, Washington was an exception, had really, really buttoned up O-lines. So I have been a skeptic on the last couple of drafts for the San Francisco 49ers. I had said this, they're getting old and expensive. I don't like their offensive line. I thought this year's draft was a lot of hit and miss with 11 picks, 4 or 5 I like, 5 or 6 I didn't. But they have the easiest NFL schedule, I'm not joking, since the 2015 Atlanta Falcons. And it's based on 2 metrics. Number one is last year's results. So they're playing a lot of teams that were bad last year. And the second metric is a lot of teams that are projected to be lousy this year. So on 2 different metrics, they've got the easiest schedule. Now, I will say this. If you gave Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Matt Stafford, Josh Allen this schedule, it is 13 to 14 wins. This is an affront to competitive football. And I don't want to hear $55 million Brock Purdy. I don't want to hear any excuses, or I don't want to hear any pom-poms when he wins 10 games with this mess of a schedule. San Francisco, not only is this schedule littered with mediocrity, they don't face a single team off a bye. Okay. Outside of Matt Stafford twice and CJ Stroud once, they don't face what people view as an elite quarterback. In fact, it's rookie quarterbacks, it's quarterbacks without 20 total starts. So I'm done with the Brock Purdy excuses. People will say, well, Colin, he's missing this and he's missing that. You know what he's missing? Back-to-back tough games all season. This is as easy as a schedule gets. So this is bowling with bumpers. This is a trust fund schedule, no discomfort. And again, does it make me think, and I'll say this, I think the division's better. I think the Rams are in a group of 5 Super Bowl favorite teams. I think Arizona's defense, which they went all in on, free agency and draft, with a defensive coach, is going to be feisty. I think Seattle's got a great roster, and I think Minnesota is going to regret. I do. I think they're going to regret moving off Sam Darnold. So I think the division is really good. Not AFC West, maybe not NFC North, but it's really good. But that schedule, what can I say? It starts easy, a couple, Rams a little, and it ends easy. You don't get Rams in the first month. You don't get playoff teams in the last month. Maybe they could complain their buys too late, but it is. I mean, you could down the stretch have Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward and Anthony Richardson, and it's a lot of nothing.
Colin,
okay.
Real quick, if you're looking for a hiccup, there are 4 road games in 5 weeks that looks a little difficult there in October. At Rams, at Tampa, and then they've got Houston and the New York Giants. That could be difficult. 4 road games in 5 weeks. You get a Trent Williams injury, you're kind of screwed. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's a real toughie right there. At the New York Giants. Shudder. That'll keep you awake at night.